Fear can have a crippling effect. It can bring us to our knees if we're not careful. But I want to share with you some insights around fear and some actual practices you can do to move beyond fear. If you're like me, you've probably dealt with fear and anxiety, and it's brought a lot of emotions and situations that you don't want to carry around with you. And fear is almost like a shadow. It's like it's always there. It's not really real, but it's there. When I look through my life, I look at the fear and the anxiety that I've carried, and oftentimes the fear and the anxiety itself has been the worst thing. I believe actually it was Winston Churchill who said the only thing to fear is fear itself, and I find that to be so true. So how do we move beyond fear? What is fear? Where does it come from? From my understanding, fear actually has to do with identification, meaning our temporary self and our ego self being identified with our existence. And what do I mean by that? That can sound kind of woo-woo and weird, but if you look at it like this, I believe that we have this eternal self, this deeper part of ourself, the soul, the spirit, if you want to call it that. We also have this temporary self, this meat suit that I'm wearing that is going to someday cease to exist. My eternal self will move on. I don't know what that looks like. I can't tell you, haven't been there. But I believe that we have an eternal self that is a part of eternity. And so I believe fear comes into play when we have this ego construct, this temporary self that is trying desperately to exist forever, right here, right now. It wants to exist, it wants to be seen, it wants to be known. Like how many of you have carried fear around money, have had fear around relationships? Like, can you find a relationship? Will you ever find the right one? The one that you're in, will it cease to exist? So many things have to do with fear, but if you look deeply into the fear, it has to do with our existence, meaning things usually around reproduction and survival. Like if I don't have enough money, then I'll have to go into a state of poverty. That won't feel good. That'll decrease my options to reproduce and decrease my ability to survive. Like some very primal type shit. It's based around relationships. It's the same thing. It has to do with reproduction, ultimately our happiness, yes, but reproduction and our ability to survive. These very deep primal needs that become identified with the ego. On the other end, if you're having a lot of success, you're moving up the hierarchy of status, we feel good because we increase our opportunities of reproduction and our ability to survive. For some of you that might sound strange, but I think when you look deeply into it, you'll see the primal nature of who we are as humans and our ability and desire to survive. In fact, there's a saying that says, wherever you find cockroaches, you will also find humans, because they're both able to survive. Like just look around the world and how many different ecosystems, economic systems, religious systems, humans exist. They're all over the world as our cockroaches. So we have a unique ability to survive. To loosen the grip of fear and anxiety, we have to become deeply identified with what we actually are. To understand what we are, we first have to understand what we are not. And here's your practice, here's your takeaway. I encourage you to sit in some form of silence, maybe meditation, and go deeply into yourself. Ask yourself the question, what you are not. As an example, it might look like this. I am not my body. I am not my accomplishments. I am not what other people think of me. I am not anything I own. I am not even my emotions. And so you can keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And what this does is it loosens the grip of identification and all those primal survival energies that our ego and the temporary self can often cling on to, because it's obsessed with understanding who we are right now and existing in the best way right now. And so becoming deeply identified with what we are not, we get closer and closer to what we actually are. And that, my friends, is for you to discover. That's your homework. But I will tell you right now that the more you become identified with what you actually are versus what you are not, it lets go of all this energy of perfection, having to be something, having to be perfect, any ideas that you're not enough, that you're too much, that you're not lovable, all these common voices that take place in our head that are often identified with the ego, that therefore then lead to fear. So to move beyond fear, we have to start by understanding what we are not, which will then take us closer to what we actually are. Now maybe this sounds too simple, but I will tell you it actually works. I am not there. I have not arrived there fully yet. I will tell you that this journey I have been on to move beyond fear has allowed me to live a life with much less anxiety, much less fear. Not that I still don't have those things, but it's allowed me to loosen my grip on life in general. I believe as we mature, as we evolve through life, we actually have to learn to let go more, to release more, to allow more. This actually loosens us up and makes life a much better experience. So to move beyond fears, understand what you are not, because it will take you deeply into what you actually are. I love you all so much. I make these videos for you, so if you can do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe, and until next time, peace.